The release of Spider-Man No Way Home saw the long-awaited return of both Toby Maguire's Spider-Man and Andrew Garfield's Amazing Spider-Man, as they teamed up with the MCU's Tom Holland's Spider-Man to defeat many villains from their past. With the success of this film, fans have been clamoring for Toby and Andrew to get new solo films dedicated to their iterations of the character, one last send-off to these web-slinging heroes. In a perfect world, both Toby and Andrew would get their own brand new movies, and to be fair, that may very well happen, all things are possible after all. But if we could only choose for one of them to get a new film, which would it be? That's the question that I intend to answer right now. The Sam Raimi Spider-Man trilogy is what I grew up on. For my generation, Tobey Maguire was, and honestly still is, Spider-Man. I've even come to appreciate Spider-Man 3, despite all of its flaws. And honestly, at this point, my opinion on it is, it's not so bad. In fact, Spider-Man 3 is crucial to how I reached my conclusion for this debate. Putting aside the flaws of the film, Spider-Man 3 did bring a satisfying conclusion to the ongoing plot of these movies. At the core of Sam Raimi's trilogy is the relationship between Peter Parker, Mary Jane Watson, and Harry Osborn. The events of these movies shape and define this friendship, and everything really comes down to these three characters. We see them start off as becoming unlikely friends, to there being a love triangle, to Peter and Harry becoming enemies, and Mary Jane is caught in the middle, and finally, Spider-Man 3 gives us the moment that the entire story has been building up to ever since the death of Norman Osborn. Harry, Peter, and MJ finally being able to forgive one another, and finally being able to reconcile. The cherry on top of the sundae being the hug between Mary Jane and Peter at the end of the movie that implies that they will ultimately get back together, something which No Way Home finally confirmed. And so because of that, I feel satisfied at where we ended this version of the Spider-Man story. I felt like there really wasn't much left to tell, if anything at all. The fact that No Way Home confirms that Peter and Mary Jane are together made me feel even more satisfied and content with that trilogy coming to an end the way that it did. Now, yes, we could maybe follow, Peter and Mary Jane's child becoming a hero, or perhaps we'll get an old man Peter in the same vein as old man Logan, but is any of that really necessary? I really don't think so. As much as Tobey's version of the character will always be my Spider-Man, I think that his story is pretty much done, and if there's one lesson that Hollywood really needs to learn now more than ever, it's that there is value in an ending. And that leads us to Andrew Garfield's Spider-Man, who at this point does not have an ending, no conclusion, no satisfying final scene that wraps up his story and tells us everything is going to be alright from here on out for this character, leaving us with a sense of closure. Andrew's Spider-Man just doesn't have that at this point. The story of the Amazing Spider-Man is one that sadly was cut short and quickly replaced by the MCU's Tom Holland's Spider-Man, and while the sequel was pretty bad in a lot of places, I greatly enjoyed the first Amazing Spider-Man, and I love the ideas and the plot threads that it set up, turning Oscorp into the overarching big bad of the entire story, the mystery surrounding Peter's parents, the Lizard as a villain, the fantastic chemistry that Andrew and Emma brought to the Peter and Gwen romance. All of it was very well done in my opinion. So when I came out of the theater somewhat disappointed by Amazing Spider-Man 2, it was a surprising letdown to be sure. Not that there aren't things that I don't like about the movie. I actually find the Harry Osborn Green Goblin to be creepy and unsettling, and his laugh still sends chills down my spine. The death scene of Gwen Stacy and its aftermath is masterfully done. Setting up the Sinister Six was a great idea and concept. Despite the flaws of the film, there was a lot of promise here for a great story to come. And then, it just never came. Instead, Andrew's story was canceled and we got Tom Holland's MCU Spider-Man, who I've had my own issues with. Check out the video link down below to find out more about my thoughts on him. But I was so disappointed that we were never going to see the Amazing Spider-Man continue. Like I said before, Tobey is my favorite Spider-Man. But taking nostalgia glasses off, I actually think, objectively speaking, that Andrew Garfield is the best Spider-Man that we have gotten on screen. From his humor to his passion for the ones that he loves, to his intelligence and smarts, he represents the comic book hero the best on the big screen. However, I do believe that Tobey is a better Peter Parker. Somewhere between Andrew Garfield as Spider-Man and Toby Maguire as Peter Parker is the perfect version of the character as a whole. Spider-Man No Way Home hinted at events that occurred after the events of Amazing Spider-Man 2. Apparently, Andrew's Peter became a much darker version of the character, stopped pulling his punches, but eventually got better. That's a fascinating angle to take with Spider-Man. I would love to see this darker version of Spidey, not even necessarily black suit Spider-Man because, well, we all know how that turned out last time. But rather just a gritty version of regular Spider-Man. Given how Felicia Hardy, Black Cat, was set up in Amazing Spider-Man 2, I could see her becoming a new love interest for this darker version of Peter Parker. Kraven the Hunter, I think, could be a good villain for this story, which, by the way, tell me if you would like to see me do a video on how I would write Amazing Spider-Man 3. Tell me that in the comments section down below. Most importantly, Amazing Spider-Man 3 could see Peter rising above all of the losses in his life to finally become the hero he is meant to be and put an end to the corruption that is Oscorp in this universe. That would be an amazing conclusion to Andrew Garfield's story as the Amazing Spider-Man. And that's why, if I have to choose between getting Spider-Man 4 or Amazing Spider-Man 3, I'm going to go with the latter option, as that is the story most in need of an ending, a conclusion. Andrew Garfield deserves to have his Spider-Man story completed, and I believe that with the newfound love that he has garnered because of No Way Home, the movie would be a huge success. And finally, like I said before, there is value in an ending. But tell me your thoughts in the comments down below. Would you prefer that we got Spider-Man 4 or Amazing Spider-Man 3, and tell me why? Of course, be sure to hit that like button, click that bell, most importantly subscribe and share the video to get early access to videos like this one. Consider joining our Patreon, and if you feel extra generous, my Cash App, my PayPal, and my Venmo information is listed in the description box below as well. Also, check out my other channels and social media. The information for that is also down in the description box below as well. Until the next one, this is JeskerJames with a Z, and I am signing out.